Today's lesson is quite a bit shorter than yesterday's, and it is on ordered pairs. Ordered pairs are the numbers that we use to plot something on a graph. So it usually comes in brackets. Our first number is always our x value, and our second number is always our y value. So we won't be doing any graphing today, but we will be looking at how we can take a table of values and turn it into a set of ordered pairs that you could plot on a graph. For question 1, they are going to ask you to write the rule. So remember, a rule is written in words instead of math symbols. Those are formulas. Now, they'll give you an input-output chart, and you have to figure out how do you get from the input to the output. So usually there's two operations that we could do. So to get from 1 to 3, we could multiply by 3, or we could add 2. To get from 2 to 6, if we're multiplying, we could multiply by 3. If we're adding, we would add 4. Now already we can tell that there's no consistent adding number. So odds are it will be multiplication. 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12. Yeah, this is going to be our rule. So you would write in words, multiply by 3. Now remember, your rules could include multiply by, which we've already seen, could include divide by, add, or subtract. And the wording for add and subtract are a little bit different. You would say add blank to the input number, or subtract blank. And you could actually take out the 2 and just make it nice and short. Question 2 asks you how the rule changes when you switch the input and output numbers. So if we look at the example that we just did, where we have our input and output numbers and our rule is multiply by 3, to switch the numbers, we literally put the output column in the input. So we put 3, 6, 9, 12 first, and then our input numbers would go in the other column. So now you'd be able to see, okay, how do I get from 3 to 1? Well, I could divide by 3, or I could subtract 2. How do I get from 6 to 2? I could divide by 3, or I could subtract 4. Now our subtracting is already different, so let's see, can we divide for all of them? Yes. So our rule would be divide by 3. Now, if we were to look at what the difference is between these two rules, the change is in the operation, multiply and divide. So one of the things that you'll remember is when we looked at what kind of opposite operations were, multiplying was the opposite of dividing, and adding is kind of the opposite of subtract. It's how you undo the other operation. So for most of these, you can see whether it gives you the opposite operation when you switch the ordered pairs. Ordered pairs, as we talked about earlier, are made up of 2 numbers, and they're written in brackets. When you are given an input-output table, you're going to put your input as the first number and your output as the second. So 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 9, 4, 12. And I'm going to show you in a minute why this matters. So if we reverse our numbers, when we're writing our ordered pairs, they will come out in the opposite order. It'll still be the 2 same numbers, but the order will have changed. So if I were to start graphing, our x value always comes first and our y comes second. So if I were to look at this first graph, if I had an ordered pair of 1 and 3, I would go to 1 on the x-axis and 3 on the y-axis. So this would be my first point. And then I would go 2 and 6, and 3 and 9, 4 and 12. So they would make a straight line going up at quite a steep angle. If I reverse them, then I would be going to, okay, here's 3 and 1. And then I would go to 6 and 2, 9 and 3, 12 and 4. They're both making straight lines, but the angles or the slopes are quite different, so it would not create the same graph, which is why the order matters. So for question number 3, all you are doing is creating an input-output graph and turning it into an ordered pair. So you're filling in this part. You will not need to do any graphing for this lesson. As always, you can comment on FreshGrade to let me know if you need help and that you are finished. It's a quick lesson today, but we've got a Zoom meeting, so hopefully that'll help balance out your time. And if you find you've got a little extra time, this could be a day that you put a little bit more work into your literature circles.